I found out 3 days before graduation that my $40,000 college fund was gone. My stepfather shrugged. Cameron needed it more. Weddings are expensive, and you can just take out loans. I smiled, congratulated him, and told them I'd love to give a speech at his wedding. They had no idea what I was about to say into that microphone. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe, like, and share this story, because what happens next will leave you absolutely speechless. You're taking this really well, Jade. My mother looked relieved, almost surprised, as she stood in my childhood bedroom, the one I'd be moving out of in 3 days when I graduated from Arizona State University. We were worried you'd be upset. Upset. That was the word she used. Like they'd borrowed my car without asking, not stolen my entire future. Why would I be upset? I kept my voice steady, even as my hands shook. Cameron's getting married. Weddings are important. My stepfather, Richard, nodded approvingly from the doorway. See, honey? I told you Jade would understand. She's always been the mature one. Mature. Another word for easy to manipulate. And you can just take out student loans, Richard continued, like he was doing me a favor. Everyone does it. You'll pay them off eventually. But Cameron and Bethany only get one wedding day. One wedding day. Versus 4 years of education. Versus the fund my father had set up before he died when I was 8. The fund my mother had promised, sworn, would be there when I needed it. How much of the fund is left? I asked quietly. My mother wouldn't meet my eyes. Well, the wedding venue was very expensive. And the catering. And Bethany wanted a destination bachelorette party. How much, Mom? About $3,000. $3,000 out of $40,000. They'd spent $37,000 on my stepbrother's wedding. On flowers and champagne and a honeymoon to Fiji, while I faced $60,000 in student loan debt. Okay, I said simply. Richard brightened. Okay, so you're fine with this? I'm fine. I smiled, the kind of smile I'd been practicing in the mirror since I was 10 years old, learning to hide what I really felt. Actually, I'd love to give a speech at the wedding. If that's okay. My mother's face lit up. Really? Oh, Jade, that would be wonderful. Cameron would be so touched. When is it again? 2 weeks. Right after your graduation. Perfect timing. I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in finance and a minor in communications. My mother and Richard showed up 20 minutes late and left early to handle wedding emergencies. Cameron didn't come at all, but my best friend Kira was there. And my father's sister, Aunt Monica, who'd driven 6 hours from Tucson. She was the one who hugged me afterward, tears in her eyes. Your dad would be so proud, she whispered. Aunt Monica, can I ask you something? What is it, sweetheart? The college fund Dad set up. Was Mom the only one who had access to it? Her expression shifted. Why do you ask? They spent it. On Cameron's wedding. All but $3,000. Aunt Monica went pale. What? Richard said I could just take out loans. That Cameron needed it more. Jade, that fund had conditions. Your father set it up through his life insurance, specifically for your education. Your mother was the trustee, but she couldn't legally use it for anything else. What they did, she stopped, her jaw tight. What they did was theft. Are you sure? I'm sure. I helped your father set it up. There's paperwork. Documentation. Do you have any records of the fund? I have the original trust documents. Dad gave them to me before he died. Told me to keep them safe. Then we need to talk to a lawyer. After the wedding, I said. Aunt Monica studied my face. What are you planning? Just a speech. A really, really honest speech. She smiled slowly. Your father's daughter. Cameron's wedding was everything you'd expect from $37,000. The venue was a resort in Sedona with red rock views and a pergola covered in white roses. The guest list had 300 people. The champagne flowed like water. I wore a simple black dress. My mother had suggested I wear something more festive, but I told her black was classic. She didn't push it. Cameron was 26, tall and confident in his custom tuxedo. His bride, Bethany, looked like a princess in a dress that probably cost more than my car. They'd been dating for 2 years, less time than I'd spent earning my degree. I sat at a table near the back during the ceremony, watching my mother cry happy tears, watching Richard beam with pride, watching everyone celebrate a love story funded by my stolen future. The reception was held in a massive ballroom with crystal chandeliers and a live band. Dinner was served, filet mignon and lobster tail. The speeches started after the main course. Richard went first, telling stories about Cameron's childhood, choking up when he talked about his boy becoming a man. Cameron's best man went next, making jokes about bachelor parties and ball and chains that got polite laughs. Then the DJ announced, "And now, we have a special speech from the groom's stepsister, Jade." I stood up, smoothing my black dress. My mother gave me an encouraging smile. Cameron looked surprised but pleased. Richard nodded approvingly. I walked to the microphone, index cards in hand. The ballroom quieted down. "Hi everyone. I'm Jade, Cameron's stepsister." I smiled warmly. I've known Cameron for 12 years now, since my mom married his dad when I was 10. And I have to say, I've learned so much from watching him grow up. Murmurs of approval. Cameron grinned. For example, I've learned that family is really important. That we should always be there for each other. That we should support each other's dreams and help each other succeed. I paused, which is why I'm so grateful to Cameron for teaching me these lessons in such a personal way. My mother beamed. She had no idea. You see, 3 days before my college graduation, I graduated summa cum laude, by the way, from Arizona State. I found out that my college fund was gone. The $40,000 fund my late father set up for me before he died. The fund that was supposed to cover my education, my books, my living expenses. The smiles started fading. My mother's face went white. At first, I didn't understand where it went. It was in a trust, specifically designated for my education. Protected. Sacred, even, since it was one of the last things my dad did for me before he passed away when I was 8. Cameron's smile had completely disappeared. Richard stood up slightly, like he might come stop me, but Aunt Monica, seated strategically near the stage, stood up too, arms crossed. But then my stepfather explained it to me. Cameron needed it more. Because weddings are expensive. Because I could just take out student loans. Because apparently my education, my father's last gift to me, was less important than one day of celebration. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Bethany looked confused, turning to Cameron. "What is she talking about?" $37,000, I continued, my voice steady. "That's how much of my college fund paid for this wedding. The venue we're standing in? My sophomore year. The catering we just ate? My junior year. That stunning dress Bethany's wearing? My final semester." "Jade, stop this right now," Richard started, but I kept going. "The destination bachelorette party to Miami? That was my textbook money. The honeymoon to Fiji? That was my graduation. The open bar everyone's been enjoying? That was supposed to be my future." My mother was crying now, but not happy tears. And you know what the best part is? It was illegal. My father set up that trust specifically for my education. My mother was the trustee, which means she had a legal obligation to use it only for that purpose. But she didn't. She gave it to Cameron instead. Gave it to her stepson for a party while her own daughter, her own blood, drowned in debt. "You're being dramatic," Richard tried again. "Am I? I'm $60,000 in debt. $60,000 I'll be paying off for the next 20 years. That's my wedding fund gone. My house down payment gone. My retirement savings gone. So that Cameron could have ice sculptures and a 12-piece band." I turned to Cameron directly. "Congratulations, by the way. I'm sure it'll be a beautiful marriage. I hope it's worth what it cost." Bethany was staring at Cameron in horror. "You knew about this?" I didn't think," Cameron stammered. "You didn't think? You didn't think that maybe your stepsister needed her education fund more than you needed a wedding at a 5-star resort. It was my parents' decision. It was my father's money." My voice cracked. "My dead father's money. The last thing he could give me. And you took it without even saying thank you." The ballroom was completely silent except for my mother's sobs. "I have the original trust documents," I continued, my voice cold now. "I also have a lawyer who's very interested in this case. Misappropriation of trust funds. Breach of fiduciary duty. There are legal consequences for what you did, Mom. For what you both did." My mother stood up. "Jade, please, we can talk about this. We had 3 days to talk about it. 3 days before my graduation, when you told me the money was gone. You didn't want to talk then. You wanted me to smile and accept it and take out loans and pretend my future didn't matter." "We'll pay you back," Richard started. "With what?" I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "You just spent $37,000 on a wedding. You have no savings. You remortgaged your house last year. You're not paying me back. You're hoping I'll just forget about it. Just like you forgot about me." I looked around the ballroom at all the guests staring in shock. "I want everyone here to know what you're celebrating. You're celebrating theft. You're celebrating a mother who chose her stepson over her daughter. You're celebrating a wedding built on stolen dreams. I set the microphone down and walked off the stage. Aunt Monica was waiting for me, along with Kira, who'd been recording the entire speech on her phone. "Just in case you need it for court," Kira whispered. We walked out of that ballroom and didn't look back. Behind us, I could hear chaos erupting. Shouting. Crying. The band had stopped playing. 3 weeks later, I sat in a lawyer's office with Aunt Monica. My attorney, Margaret Torres, reviewed the trust documents with a grim expression. "This is textbook misappropriation," she said. "Your mother violated her fiduciary duty as trustee. We have grounds for a lawsuit to recover the funds, plus damages." "Will we win?" "Absolutely. But I have to warn you, this will destroy your relationship with your family." I thought about my mother's face at the wedding. Richard's anger. Cameron's shock. "They destroyed it first," I said quietly. "I'm just making it official." We filed the lawsuit the next day. My mother called me 73 times in the first week. I answered once. "How could you do this?" she sobbed. "I'm your mother. How could you steal from me?" I responded. "I'm your daughter. We'll lose the house. Richard could lose his job. Cameron and Bethany are talking about divorce. That's not my problem. You made your choice. Now live with the consequences." "Jade, please. I have $60,000 in debt because of you. I'll be 35 years old before I'm debt-free. That's 7 years of my life gone. So no, Mom. I won't drop the lawsuit. I won't forgive you. And I won't pretend this is okay." I hung up. The lawsuit took 8 months. In that time, I didn't speak to my mother, Richard, or Cameron. I got a job at a financial firm in Phoenix. I moved into a small apartment with Kira. I started paying down my loans slowly, painfully. The court ruled in my favor. Full restitution of $37,000, plus interest and legal fees. My mother and Richard had to take out a loan against their house to pay it. Cameron and Bethany divorced 6 months after the wedding. Apparently, she couldn't get past the fact that he'd built their marriage on my stolen money. When the check arrived, $41, $247.89, I stared at it for a long time. It wasn't really my college fund back. The money had already been spent on my education through loans. This was just compensation. Justice. I used it to pay off a chunk of my student loans. Put some in savings. Donated $5,000 to a scholarship fund for students who'd lost parents. And I took Aunt Monica to dinner. A nice dinner. One I could actually afford. "Your dad would be so proud of you," she said, raising her glass. "For suing my own mother? For standing up for yourself. For refusing to be erased. For fighting back." I clinked my glass against hers. "To Dad. And to never letting family get away with theft just because they're family." 2 years later, I'm 25. I have a good job, a small apartment, and $30,000 left in student loans. I'll have them paid off by the time I'm 30. My mother sends me texts on holidays. I don't respond. Cameron sent me a letter apologizing. I didn't read past the first paragraph. Richard blocked me on all social media. And I'm okay with all of it. Because some relationships aren't worth the cost. Some forgiveness isn't earned. And some speeches need to be given, even if they ruin the party. Especially if they ruin the party. My college fund was stolen. But I got something better in return, my self-respect. And that's something no one can ever take away.